So what is up, guys? Brendan Suter back, and I know it's been a while. I know it's a bit of a different content. I know you're used to seeing me film NFL content, talk about the New Orleans Saints, but let me tell you, I'm more of a Jays fan than I am a Saints fan, and I really have been missing talking about the Toronto Blue Jays, so I'm bringing this back. So what I'm going to aim to do is recap every month for the Toronto Blue Jays. So currently we are doing the April recap. So far we've gotten off to a very good start. Went 14-8 in the month of April, currently second in the American League East, and we're 8th in the MLB, so definitely a good start to the season, what I expected. Now I'm going to be getting into kind of the positives, the negative, big surprises, big disappointments, and a bit of an outlook on the future. So without further ado, let's get this video started. All right, so getting into the given of the Toronto Blue Jays. Number one, the pitching and the defense. Now, if you told me that the pitching and the defense would take a step up from last year, I totally would have believed you. But if you had told me that they would be the main reasons why we were doing as well as we were, and it had nothing to do with the offense, yeah, I would have asked if you had a DeLorean. Like, I'm serious. Like, the pitching has been electric this year. So let's start off with Kevin Gausman. This was a big gamble, getting him in free agency. We got rid of Robbie Ray, and we're bringing in Kevin Gausman, and he has been immaculate. One thing I'm looking at is his FIP. He currently has a .54 FIP as I'm filming this. Now, some of you who aren't really into sabermetrics, I'm going to try to explain FIP as best as possible. So FIP really just looks into the three true outcomes for a pitcher when you remove all fielding elements. So it comes down to strikeouts per 9, walks per 9, and home runs per 9. And that's pretty good for Kevin Gausman because he hasn't walked nor given up a home run so far this season. It's insane, and he has a .54 FIP. Anything below a 1 is insane. Dude's got one of the highest chase rates in the league. His splitter is just the nastiest pitch that I have seen, and it's working. He's been a huge contributor to the pitching rotation, and the other big contributor that we have is Alek Manoah. Now, I was hoping that he would build up from what he did last year, and oh my God, he is amazing. He's currently 4-0 this season with a 1.44 ERA. He doesn't quite have as good of a FIP. He actually has a 3 FIP, but currently ranks with a 2.61 ERA plus. Now, ERA plus really adjusts for the ballpark you play in and the run scoring environment, the era that you played in, and 100 is league average. So Alek Manoah with a 2.61 means that he's 161% above league average. And Kevin Gausman currently is rolling out with a 172. So both are doing extremely well. So another given with the Toronto Blue Jays is that we're actually 19th in ERA with a 3.76. Now, I know what you're thinking. How is that good to be 19th? Well, if you remove the series against the Texas Rangers, we would be 6th with a 3.07 ERA. So, yeah, think about it like you're in school. You take a test early on in the year and you bomb it. But, that's as the year goes on, that's going to become less and less significant. So at first, yeah, it's going to have a big impact, but the more the season goes on, the less of an impact it's going to have. Another key asset that we have is the bullpen. Now, there's 3 main bullpen guys that have just carried us. I kind of think of the 2014-2015 Royals who were carried by Kelvin Herrera, Greg Holland, and Wade Davis. We got our own 3 with Tim Meza, Adam Simber, and Jordan Romano. Tim Meza, our main lefty out of the bullpen, currently has a 3.46 ERA plus, meaning he's 246% better than league average. So that's just insane. Adam Simber, I think he's tied with Manoah in wins. That's a league lead. He's just always an asset of the bullpen with a 234 ERA plus. And then Jordan Romano, man, has just been absolutely electric this year. Sure, he's gotten himself in a lot of trouble in some of these saves, but he's able to get out of it, except for the one that we lost to Houston. But other than that, he's just been one of our best that we've had this season. Going on with the given, I'm going to move on towards the offense. Now, there's only a few guys I'm going to talk about in the given because I'm saving a few guys for disappointment and surprises. I bet you'll know who will be in surprises. But anyways, few big guys that we've had this year were George Springer and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I've been saying, we get a full, healthy season out of George Springer. He's going to produce in space. He's doing amazing. Currently has a 176 OPS plus. And then Vladimir Guerrero Jr., one thing about him this season is that pitchers are a lot more scared to face him. So he's getting a lot more pitches outside the zone. He's walking a lot more, but he's still reaching base. So he's still a positive contributor to this team. One thing is that we also lead the league in home runs, which, doesn't really surprise me. But now, maybe the biggest key asset to this team is how well we do in one-run games. Currently, we're 8-2 at the time of filming in one-run affairs. Last year, in the past couple of years, we're either mediocre or really bad in those games because the pitching is either going to collapse or the offense is not going to be clutch. But, we're able to get both in those scenarios, so it's a very satisfying feeling just to win a one-run game. I love a good one-run game. I love the intensity that it brings. And also, I want to talk about WAR, wins above replacement. So our top 6, some of them may come as a shock. Number 1 is Alek Manoah, but I'm not really shocked by that. I'm shocked that he's 1. Number 2, George Springer. I love to see it. Third is Santiago Espinal. Now, I'll talk about him later. Then fourth, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., fifth, Jordan Romano, and finally, Kevin Gausman. Now, if I go down the list more, there's going to be a few guys that are on there that have acquired WAR but haven't played enough time, so I'm just not going to include it. But overall, I've been super impressed with some of the aspects from the Toronto Blue Jays this season. Now I'm going to get into the worry of the Toronto Blue Jays. Number one, I'm going right to the bottom end of the rotation that involves Hyunjin Ryu and Yusei Kikuchi. Both guys just give up so many runs. Hyunjin Ryu, he only made 2 starts this year before he ended up on IL. He has a 13.5 ERA, a 29 ERA plus. Like, whenever he pitches, we basically need to score at least like 10 plus runs because his pitching is just not going to cut it right now. And then Yusei Kikuchi, the thing about him is that he's a contact pitcher. Now, when we signed him, I was thinking, okay, not decent signing, a good guy at number 5. I look at his baseball savant page, and it's basically all that he does is give up hard hits. And he gives up a lot of hits, but he walks so many guys. He walks as many guys as he strikes out. And obviously, walks produces base runners. Base runners produces runs. And since he's a contact pitcher, he gives up so many runs. He's currently sporting a 69, a very nice ERA plus, but it's not good in this scenario. But anyways, it's just like the back end of the rotation is very concerning. Now, Ross Stripling, in his time that he's been here, he's had some good starts, but when do we get Nate Pearson? When's he going to be coming up? Obviously, Nate Pearson has been out with mononucleosis, so timetable is really to be determined. And honestly, I'm not sure if he's best as a starter for now. I feel like he might be better off as a reliever. Kind of like what Brett Cecil and Wade Davis did. But another big concern that I have with this team is the offense. Now, ever since Danny Jansen and Teoscar Hernandez went out, both of them were producing super well, especially Danny Jansen. The offense has been in a massive rut. Now, one thing I want to look at is what we're like with nobody on base. We hit 263, 320 on base percentage, and a 448 slugging percentage. Now, with runners on, we hit 226 with a 291 on base percentage and a 370. And then with runners in scoring position, we hit 172 with a 249 on base percentage and a 314 slugging percentage. So apparently we are elite when nobody's on base, but we're terrible when people are on base. We're like the 2020 Mets. And, I did talk about how the Blue Jays were first in the league in home runs. Well, yeah, a lot of these are solo home runs. Not many of these home runs are not coming with runners on base. One thing I think about is the 2019 Houston Astros. A big reason why they lost the World Series to the Nationals was their dependence on the long ball. Once the long ball wasn't a factor, they could not score with runners on base. Many guys were left on base. Their risk was horrible, and it just led to their collapse and the Washington Nationals winning the World Series. Now, a few stats that I have to back this up is obviously we're first in home runs with 30. We are fourth in hits with 183. But when you get into some concerns, we're 11th in RBIs with 88 and 17th in runs. So what that really shows me is just that obviously we're super good with no one on base, but we're terrible everywhere else. So once we can kind of get over the hump, finally learn that we can't just be relying on the long ball, I feel like we can have an offensive explosion. Another big concern that I have with this team is the discipline. We're striking out a lot. We're 17th in on-base percentage, and that creates a problem because, if we're not getting on base and if we're striking out so many times, that's horrible if we're needing to try to get hits or trying to score runs. And also, despite being 14-8, we actually have a run differential of 0. Now, don't forget, we're in a lot of one-run ball games. We've won many of these by 1 run. And whenever we're losing, it's either by a couple of runs or we're getting blown out. Technically, and whenever we win, we've only had 1 blowout this year, which is winning by 5 or more runs. According to Baseball Reference, at least. I feel like once we get Teoscar Hernandez and Danny Jansen back, we're going to get some of the whiffers out of the lineup. Raimel Tapia and Bradley Zimmer are going to kind of be on that like every other day role, just kind of be bench players. And we're finally going to have an offensive resurge, which is what we need because I want some comfortable victories. As much as I enjoy winning one-run games, they are so stressful. Now we get into some of the big surprises from the Toronto Blue Jays thus far. One big surprise, we haven't lost a series all season. Now, we've won every series, we've never swept a team, and the worst we've ever done was a 2-2 tie against the New York Yankees in the second series of the year. But overall, I'll take that. If you're winning series, that's good, but, I always want the sweep in there. But the biggest surprise in this season, in my opinion, has been Santiago Espinal. I said it so many times to my friends on TikTok, I fucking love Santiago Espinal. The way that he started the season was he was our bench player. Kevin Biggio, he was the starting second baseman, but with his poor performances at the plate, Espinal got to pinch hit in both the first and second game and was super clutch in both and has not lost the starting job since then. He has just been one of our biggest assets. Now, the thing about Santiago Espinal, he's an okay hitter. He's 261 with a 325 on-base percentage, 435 slugging, so he's not exactly the biggest power hitter, but he is extremely clutch, currently rocking a 123 OPS plus, which I absolutely love. He's been able to be a key contributor to this team. Another big shock that I've had in the season is Zach Collins. Now, we traded Reese McGuire away to get him, and I was a little bit questioned by this, but currently, to start the season, Zach Collins has been on a massive hot streak. He's hitting 256 with a 304 on-base percentage and a 512 slugging percentage with a 137 OPS plus. Now, one issue that I do have with him is that he is slowly starting to fall off. He's starting to come back to reality that the hot streak that he was on to start the season is kind of over. And of course, another big surprise I could talk about was the bullpen. Obviously last year that was our biggest liability, but many games where we've had to rely on the bullpen to finish out the game, they've done extremely well, with a few exceptions, but a lot of teams are going to have something like that. And another big surprise I'm going to talk about is the defense. In the past couple of years, the Blue Jays defense has always been among one of the worst. We're like 20th and below. But looking at guys like Raimel Tapia, Bradley Zimmer, Matt Chapman, Matt Chapman's decent with the bat, but he's kind of an all-or-nothing hitter. Bradley Zimmer just can't hit. And Raimel Tapia is a contact hitter, but is a big whiffer. The thing is, those three guys bring so much defensive value, and so does Santiago Espinal. With the defensive value that we have, we're currently we're sixth in outs above average, and we're fourth in defensive runs saved. Now, don't forget, in the past couple of years, we're like 20th and below in those categories. There's a good saying that goes like this: offense sells tickets, but defense wins championships. Think about it like in the NFL. What do the top 10 scoring offenses in NFL history all have in common? None of them won the Super Bowl. And then when you look at defense, I've had a hard time finding, but most teams from lowest points allowed in NFL history, most of them won the Super Bowl. So it really just goes to show that good defensive baseball is timeless and has been a huge contributor to why we're 14-8. Now I want to get into some of the disappointments from this season. So biggest disappointment so far, surprisingly, is Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette has been off to a rough start this season. He's hitting 213, a 237 on base percentage, a 298 slugging percentage, has a 58 OPS plus. Now, for reference, I've talked a little bit about OPS plus, but something like an 80 OPS plus is poor, and 60 OPS plus would be considered unsuitable for the major leagues. Shout out to Foolish Baseball for kind of teaching me a little bit about that. Go subscribe to his channel. I'm going to link him in the description below. But Bo Bichette, one thing I've been noticing about him this season is he's just chasing. He's trying to play hero ball a lot, and it's honestly costing him. He has one of the highest chase rates in the league. He's not taking walks, and it's just been very frustrating because he's supposed to be one of our big assets. And even on the field, he's just making error after error, whether it's with trying to field the ball or trying to throw it. I don't know. I think he's just trying to be too much of a hero. I think he just needs to calm down and just go back to the basics. Start slow and just work his way up. Another huge disappointment on the season has been Kevin Biggio. Oh my God, this guy has just been absolutely terrible. He was our starting second baseman of the year and just could not hit. So obviously he gets replaced by Santiago Espinal. Man is only 1 for 23 on the season, has an OPS plus of, get this, -19. Remember, 100 is league average. He is 119% worse than the average hitter. Now he's on IL, and honestly, his playing time in Toronto is in serious jeopardy. Honestly, it would not shock me if he gets shipped out soon. So another person I've been super disappointed with this season is Jose Barrios. Now, obviously, opening day was horrible. I can't even understate that. But honestly, ever since then, he has been getting better. But one thing I noticed about a lot of his starts is that he gives up a lot of contact. He gets himself into many situations where there's runners in scoring position with none out or very few outs. But he's always been able to get out of it. But, sometimes, he can limit the damage unlike a Yusei Kikuchi or Hyunjin Ryu. But he's a bit of a tightrope baseball player. So, honestly, maybe his luck runs out. Maybe it won't. But only time will tell at this point. So coming up on the month of May, obviously we have to finish off our series against the Houston Astros. Then we got to play teams like the Yankees, the Guardians. We get to play the Tampa Bay Rays for the first time, the Mariners, Reds, Cardinals, Angels, and the Chicago White Sox. That's a pretty tough schedule. The Guardians have been pretty hot this season. Same with the Yankees. Tampa Bay Rays, obviously. Seattle Mariners are a bit of a rising force. Reds have been a huge disappointment. Cardinals still super dangerous, and the Angels. So it's a very tough month for us. So hopefully we can continue. Obviously, if we can get back Danny Jansen and Teoscar Hernandez, hopefully we can have this offense go wild again. And if the pitching can stay the way it has been, and if Hyunjin Ryu and Yusei Kikuchi can fix any of their issues, I feel like this team could be extremely lethal going forward. I mean, we already are pretty lethal, but, be the cream of the crop. So to finish this off, I'm going to give you the top 5 moments from the month of April. So honorable mention goes out to all the clutchness from Santiago Espinal. Anyways, number 5, I'm going to have the Bo Bichette Grand Slam. Now, I talked about this earlier. Bo Bichette has been slumping in the month of April. So obviously, going against the Red Sox, he was really struggling, bases loaded with 1 out, and he hits the go-ahead grand slam. We were all thinking he would break out of the slump, and he's shown bits of progress. So the grand slam was just a good moment, and it's against the Red Sox, so I enjoyed it more. Coming in at number 4, I have Alek Manoah in just this whole month. He's been one of my favorite pitchers to watch. He's always just so good. If he ever gives up a run, he shakes it off. He just comes back stronger. Number 3, I have Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s 3-home-run game. Now, obviously, doing this off Garrett Cole made him super salty, but, it's against the New York Yankees. Obviously, I hate them, and this is the second time that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had a 3-home-run game. And to do it in New York against the Bronx Bombers, very enjoyable. Number 2, I have the walk-off against the Boston Red Sox. So the day after Bo Bichette's grand slam, we finish off with an even crazier victory, down 5-2, 3 outs to go, but we rally in the 9th, tied up with a George Springer home run, and then going into extra innings, we get Raimel Tapia, who has 5 fielders in with the bases loaded, and he pokes out the walk-off sac fly. It was just a fun come-from-behind victory, and number 1 was opening day. What else could it have been? We're down 7-0, and somehow clawed our way back into that game. My favorite moment of the season. It was amazing to be there. They were saying this is next level, and oh my God, it provided such a good moment. On to the outro. And that is going to wrap up my video for today. Thank you guys all so much for watching. It is so good to be back on the Blue Jays grind. Anyways, if you want to watch some of my other videos, if you want to watch my last video, click right over here. If you like this video, drop a like, subscribe to my channel by clicking over here or the button down below. Comment down below what your thoughts were on the month of April for the Blue Jays. Who's been your favorite player so far? Who's been a huge disappointment? And what are your expectations going forward? Follow me on all my social medias, Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat at Brendan Suter. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Let's go Blue Jays. I'm not going to say who that nation is out, but Blue Jays Nation is out.